All right, Anna, you have previous to this, you have agreed to let us talk with you a little bit about some stressors that you might have. So let's start out just kind of big and let's just see what are some of the stressors that you're facing right now that we might be able to take a look at.
Let's see. Well, I'm a new mom, so that's a big one. And um, we are still settling into Canada during the pandemic. So, right now, one of my biggest stressors is kind of figuring out how to be a pastor's wife in that scenario. And like, we only had 15 people at church last week. So, like, try not to take that on, but feeling kind of like I do take that on sometimes. And one thing I just talked with Cynthia about was trying to figure out my next move and trying to find time for my own career as well. Feeling like I'm spending a lot of time supporting and like working for our family and working for the church, but not finding a lot of time to move forward with my own career. And just finished, my master's the day that my baby was born. So haven't done
What?
anything with it since then. So very
Wow, that was a momentous day.
it was.
Wow. All right. So yeah, very few stressors. There's just being a new mom, probably very, not stress inducing at all. And then you've got being a pastor's wife in the middle of the pandemic and being in a new country and what that's like. And then as well, you're looking at, do I start to move forward with my career, or what would those steps look like? So as you think about those, how do you decide what would be the one that would be most important to work on?
Well, I think the one that I have the most control over, or the one that's actually my business, is my own career. Like there's not much I can do about the church. I mean, I think if anything, I need to put some effort into backing away from, like, you know, kind of investing my emotional energy there because there's so much that's out of my control.
Okay. So you really want to prioritize what's within your control and you can maybe get some traction with, which in this case would be next steps for your career.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, again, like just moving towards things that I have control over would probably be helpful for me.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
mhm.
So that's kind of a reason in and of itself, is that it's something that you have control over. What are some other reasons that you're interested in looking at next steps with your career?
I think it would be financially good for our family. I think it would be good for me, like in my day to day mental, like, flow, to have some things going on that aren't just focused in our house. Yeah, I just think it'd be healthy to start doing something again.
Okay, so healthy mentally, healthy for the bottom line.
Mhm.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, if 10 is like the most important a thing could be and 1 is, I don't care at all, where would you put how important this is on that scale?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's probably like pretty high, like an 8 or something. But I think the way I'm acting about it is pretty much like a 1. Like I act like it's not just gonna happen when it happens, and I'm not been putting much real effort towards it. Um,
Mhm.
I'm, you know, when I get a little extra time, I'm definitely just putting it towards the, like, things that feel more immediate to me. Like, I mean, the stuff that has no long term effects on anything, like putting together IKEA furniture. So,
Okay. So on the one hand, in your behavior, you're seeing that it's kind of low, but you chose a number and you chose a number that was higher, right? You chose an 8. And so why did you pick the 8 instead of a 1 when I asked that question?
yeah, because I mean, like, I know that long term, um, for the financial good of our family and for my own, like, just to be able to be in a career that I love is really important to me. And long term, I know that that makes me really happy and fulfilled. And I want that to be a good example for my daughter. And, you know, like I want that. Um, but I think it just feels overwhelming. I have taken a few necessary steps.
Mhm.
Like I have a work permit here in Canada, and I have
Okay.
I've registered as a social worker, so I'm registered as a social worker in Canada. So that was good.
Okay.
So I've taken some preliminary steps. It's just like every time I want to take a step, it seems to take a long time for me to get the to
Mhm.
that step. And I think
Yeah.
the next steps are like networking and um, you know, actually applying for jobs and that sort of thing. And childcare is a whole nother thing. So it's kind of chicken and egg, childcare and job. So that
Mhm.
was like a very big barrier as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you've taken some steps. You're a little frustrated with how long it takes you to take the steps. When you've taken the steps, what's gotten you kind of up and moving to do that?
What was it? Well, like registering as a clinical social worker. I think um, what got me going on that was probably actually talking to another mom who's a stay-at-home mom, and she's yeah, I think it was helpful to talk to someone else who is kind of doing something similar because she's going back to work after like oh gosh, like 8 years at home or something, and
Mhm.
that took a lot of courage for her, and I felt like I can do it if she's doing it, kind of thing. Um,
Okay.
she was applying to schools, and I was like, I'm just going to look into it and see. I think that was probably it.
Okay. Let me
Yeah.
just check our time because I want to make sure we don't run over. So I hear two things in there.
I hear.
One, and you hear a baby. One is that talking with another person and having that social support and someone doing the same thing that did something for you. And then also you did this kind of mental comparison game of like, if she can do this after 8 years, I'm pretty sure I can do it after some maternity leave. So knowing either one of those two things, is there a way or how could you apply those to the particular kind of lack of progress that you're experiencing right now?
Yeah, I think what that tells me is probably that networking and just talking to people who are actually doing social work in Canada and um, having more conversations first will probably make the rest of it easier. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So what would that look like if you were to do that?
So I have a few leads of people who work in mental health in Canada that I could probably reach out to. I have reached out to a couple and just not heard
Mhm.
back. I just need to be more um I need to have a little bit more grit in how I'm reaching out to people and
Mhm. Yeah,
follow-
you're taking steps already, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm letting it slide when people don't get back to me and I need to keep going.
Okay. So what would it take to do that then? To not let it slide and to follow through when people don't get back to you?
Um, well, one thing I talked about with Cynthia was that, like, if I'm going to take time aside to do this, I need to enlist my husband's help because I need childcare to be able
Mm.
to have time to network, yeah, to meet with people, but even to do the reaching out, like while I'm still awake enough to do it and that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, what I was talking about with Cynthia was possibly just like, you know, we already have our Google Calendar synced, but like literally putting time every week on the schedule where I'm going to spend time reaching out and spend time. I think that's the first piece that I got to with Cynthia, and I still think that that's probably a pretty good first step for me. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, but as far as like, I'm grateful for this second conversation because it clarified for me that I need that social support
Mhm.
and that's just how I work. So making sure that I actually like don't use that time first to just look at jobs or to do something solo, but use that time to really connect with people so that I'm more motivated for those further steps that are less exciting to me, I think will be really important.
Yeah, the social piece will kind of pull you along. So
Yeah.
I asked before about importance. I want to kind of ask about confidence right now. How
Mhm.
confident are you that you could go into the Google Calendar, put those times in there? They would actually be times that you could use, and then you would use those times to use the grit that you naturally have to reach out to people. How confident are you from 1 to 10?
I think it's 7.
A 7? Okay.
Because I think the only thing that's, I mean, I do agree that I don't have a problem reaching out to people, but I think for me, the issue being that um, my husband's schedule being unpredictable and our baby being unpredictable. So just the other
Mhm.
people that are involved, yeah, take it down from a 10 for me.
Okay. So you're really confident in your own ability to do this. There's some, the baby and your husband kind of bring the number down a little
Not like
bit.
in a bad way, but like
These other people, it's their problem.
well, a
Yeah.
little less predictable. No.
Husbands and babies getting in
Well,
my way.
like at this moment, right? The baby is crying. So
That's kind of salient to you right now. All right. So what do you think you'll actually do?
I think I'll try. Yeah, and if anything, I can always have maybe like a main time and a backup time. Like so, let's say it doesn't work out in this hour, but we can reschedule.
Okay.
And I can talk it through, and we can do
Okay.
what works for us. Yeah, I think I could do it.
All right. So you said you were at a 7 before. Still at a 7, or has it moved up or down at all?
It's a strong 7, Jason.
It's a strong 7. All right. Well, would you be okay with me checking up with you in like a week or two and just maybe send you an IM and just ask how it's going?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And scene. All right. So I'll take us off of the spotlight here and remove spotlight. And now I can't find the remove spotlight. Remove spotlight. There we go. Weird. It didn't take her off spotlight. Interesting. Well, now it's going to go into speaker view. It looks like it's going to go into speaker view. I'm not sure how to fix that. Gallery. Let's try that. Okay. So let's start with things that went well. Anything that this red bearded garden gnome of an interviewer did well?
You summarized the conversation, and you, in each little chunk, you had summaries of what you heard. So the reflective listening came through very loud and clear, and you quickly honed in on what she had control of and said, let's work on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Anything else?
I liked how you caught yourself on the thing that you you were gonna say but, and you were like, and when she was saying she was at like a 7 for how important, but then a 1 for actually her actions. So
Right. So I wanted to validate both of them.
yes.
And I wanted to validate the motivation to change at the end. And you typically want to use and between validating that it's hard and that she wants to do it. And I use but. And sometimes, especially if somebody's reactive, that can make them be like, well, you don't get it then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else?
I think sometimes, and for me, what stuck out is, you had your agenda map in the beginning, and then you just threw it back at her and said, which one do you think? And I think sometimes I think it has to be more complex, and like you have to give them some really cool question or thought to get them to prioritize. But
Yeah.
no, you just, so which one do you think?
Yeah.
And just gave her another opportunity to reflect on them after listening to you summarizing them.
Yeah. It was interesting. I think I tried to ask her, how do you go about picking? Right. Which is like a process question. How do you go about picking? And since she picked, I went with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything that areas for improvement? How about Anna and baby? What do you think? Any areas for improvement?
Um, I think
I don't know if this is an area for improvement. It was just sort of an observation, maybe an area for improvement, but whatever she chose to do, it wasn't like she was willing to budge from that 7. You know, it was like she chose something that she wanted to work on, but then she didn't change her willingness to work on it.
Yep. Yep. And I think in a longer session, we would have wanted to see her move up to an 8 or a 9. And whatever I was doing didn't actually change that from a 7. She was like, it's a pretty hard 7. Yeah.
I think like when I was putting off, I mean, when I'm saying like, well, my baby's unpredictable and my husband's unpredictable, and so I can't change that number. I I think that's a bit of a cop out. Like I'm looking at myself and saying that's a bit of a cop out. So maybe you could have pushed me on that
Uh-huh.
a little bit more. Yeah. I mean, I think you did, but kind of in a joking way. So I kind of
Uh-huh.
it was a joke. So
Uh-huh.
in the humor.
Yes. Which is one of my 12 barriers that I tend to use distraction quite a bit. So yeah, there might have been a more skillful way to push back on that. What do you guys think would be a motivationally interviewing consistent way to challenge that a little bit?
I mean, could you go down in terms of why would you say not a 5 or 6, and then find out the reasons why she is confident to be able to focus on that to strengthen it?
Yeah, you can always go back to the motivation, right? And figure out. So given that that's, so you can acknowledge, so given that that's a barrier, why is it so important to you? And then maybe she might come around that way.
Would you also kind of think about how the unpredictability of people around her influence her own actions? And I'm just thinking about the calendar piece, and like, okay, if her husband has to fill in a meeting and that was when she was going to go do it, how do you respond to that? Do you just delete the appointment, or do you actually move the appointment? And kind of thinking through, what if that does happen? What are you going to do if you have to change your appointment? What does that look like? And almost have a plan for that unpredictability to happen.
Yep, absolutely. And that's really skillful then, because I'm saying the sustain talk and she's saying the change talk. So I say, boy, yeah, so what's going to happen then if something happens with the baby and your husband? Does it just kind of fall apart then? Right. So you take it farther than what she would, and then she would fill in. So that would be really good. The other thing that occurred to me as you were saying that is that I could just explore the idea of unpredictability and wonder if there's a way that unpredictability might actually just kind of open up an opportunity at some point for you to do this. Or how do you, or explore more, what do you do when things are unpredictable? How have you handled that in the past? So yeah, very cool. All right, any other comments or thoughts?
I thought too it was great. You highlighted what she's already done, and maybe that could have been a place too to come back to reaffirm her steps she's already taken and help boost that confidence with reflecting again on, look at what you've already accomplished.
Yeah. So when I think about how that would go, then it might be that I acknowledge that that's a barrier, right? Let's go back to what you did with these other steps and see if there's anything else back there that you could use to deal with this barrier here. Something kind of along those lines. Cool. Well, I thank everybody for coming along and participating. I hope it was helpful. I hope you got a few tips out of it, and maybe some things that you can try in your next motivational interviewing session. And